Hello and welcome to a look at World Championship Boxing Manager for the Amiga, a game that was released by Goliath Games. Now, after that mouthful of a title, you have likely gathered that this is a boxing management game, and you would be quite right. But it is quite literally a boxing management game, and not much else. And that is something that will become apparent later on in this particular video. After having selected the language you want to read the game in, you could say, you have to name your manager, and of course maybe me, I just did something wonky donkey. And then you are moved on to the boxer selection screen, where you have 6 phases that you can choose from, and then as you cycle through them, their height and weight will be randomized, and behind the scenes the game will also randomize their stats, because of course boxers have stats like any other thing in any management game. You can decide to manage between 1 and 5 boxers, and ultimately, of course, your hope is to nurture someone into becoming the world champion of heavyweight boxing. And as you can likely gather, if you decide to manage multiple boxers, you will increase your chance of finding a gem in the dirt, or dirt in the boxer gems, I don't know. So managing more boxes definitely increases your chances of finding that set or special something, but it also means that you have significantly more desk work to do, which in and by itself is not super complicated, but it's somewhat time consuming, and it can become later on in the game a bit tedious. Whatever the case is, once you have defined the boxer and the name you have chosen, I was being very creative. I felt he looked very similar to the boxer by that name, or not quite that name, so that is the name I went for. But then you are sent into your office, where you have access to various different things. You have the Feel of Facts, which contains information about your own career and the boxers under your belt and all that kind of stuff. And then you have access to a filing cabinet, where you can see the rankings of various different things. Beyond that, you have access to the phone, which you will need to use in order to arrange fights and to send your scouts out and to get fights approved by the various different fighting boards. And then you have a mailbox. You will receive mail from time to time, and if you don't click the mail to read it and progress the time, your secretary will clear the inbox. So it is somewhat important to read the mail you are getting to make sure you don't miss out on anything particular. You also have the option to exit the office, and once you do that, you will be gaining access to the exit, which will allow you to exit the game or save it, and on fight nights will allow you to go and watch the fights. Then of course you have access to the physio, who will give you a rundown of whatever boxer you choose abilities, of current state of fitness, I should say. And then you have access to the gym, where you can improve the boxer's fitness in various different areas. But you have 3 training options at any given time out of 5, and as you improve certain options or certain statistics, basically, you will be lightly weakening others, so trying to find a good balance is definitely key. Of course, the boxer can get injured during training, because I mean, we have all done the wrong lifts in our lives, I suppose. So while you set up a training regime for your boxer, might hurt himself, and you might get a phone call even from the physio saying that he's done something stupid and he can't do whatever he was trying to do for an extended period of time. And depending, of course, on the injury involved, he may not be able to do anything at all, which can be rather frustrating when you're coming up to a fight. So things like sparring, of course, have a chance to cause cuts, and weightlifting has a chance to cause strains, and roadworks has a chance to cause strains and all that kind of stuff. So trying to balance out the training is a key factor. Another component to that, of course, is the fact that you don't want to send your fighter into a fight without being in a good condition, try to survive the fight. So that is one of the main balancing acts that you have to manage as the manager. The most important function in the office is the calendar, and as you click the calendar you will progress the time. When nothing important is happening, you can just progress the time willy-nilly, and then when you reach Friday you will be told that the fights are happening that night, because Friday night is fight night, and then you can decide to go and watch the matches or fights even, or just ignore them and get the rundown of the result the following day via mail. If your current boxer or one of your boxers is currently fighting, it might be a good idea to go and watch the fight, because that way you can direct and guide and all that kind of stuff, which you won't be able to otherwise. And anyone who's been playing any game where you can have a randomized result of any match, fight, whatever it might be, it tends to be somewhat weighted towards the opponent rather than your character's army, whatever it might be. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you play this game, to go and watch your boxer getting beaten into a pulp. Once you reach a fight night where one of your boxers are involved, or if you just fancy watching the other fights, you will head to the exit and then choose to go and watch the fights. And then you will arrive at the venue where you will be parked up in the bar, and then you can choose to watch whatever fight is currently on, or just stay in the bar and get plastered while you're driving, which is always a good idea. It's not, by the way, don't do this at home, kids. It's not recommended. Don't drink and drive. Bad for you, bad for everyone else. Don't do it. Regardless, once it is time for the fight itself, you will get a presentation of the various different boxes, and then you will be given the option to come out with some recommendations for your boxers in how they are supposed to approach the fight. You have the option to be natural, which will have the boxer follow his own natural tendencies and go for knockout and jab and move and take it slow and all that kind of stuff. And then you have options to target various different areas. And then of course you have the option to fight dirty, which is a bit of a gamble, because if you get away with it you might hurt your opponent, and if you don't get away with it you might get your boxer disqualified. So it is a 50-50 shot that most times are not worth taking. The meat of the game is obviously the boxing itself, and that takes place in text form, which may be disappointing to certain people, but it kind of works, because you get a punch-by-punch description of who's doing the punching and the effect of it, whether it's not blocked, or you will get a naughty little sound effect if it actually connects. And then you will have the other guy, Eddie the Expert, I think he's called, that will call out what's happening, low blows and clash of heads and cuts and that kind of stuff, and then he will give his opinion of what he or who he thinks is currently winning from a point-based point of view. In between rounds, you will be given the option to freshen up your box a bit by using cold iron to reduce bruising, or adrenaline swaps to reduce bleeding from cuts and try to get them to heal faster and that kind of stuff. And depending on the match, depending on the ranking, depending on the opponent, go into a round 8, 9-ish, your boxer might start looking like a splattered tomato. But that's par for the course in boxing, I suppose. Once the match has been resolved, your boxer will be declared the winner or the loser, depending on the situation, and then you will go back to your office and immediately check with your physios to make sure that your boxer is not about to die, because they can get beaten rather badly into a pulp, and depending on the stats that the boxers are given by the game, they will take a certain amount of time to recover. Let's cover the technical stuff, because there's not an awful lot to cover, let's face it. From a graphical point of view, it's not particularly special. It serves the purpose it needs to serve, and basically nothing beyond that point. There's nothing interesting, exciting about the graphics, but yeah, it serves its purpose, and as such, it is entirely sufficient for the game's needs. The sound effects, there's a few sound effects for hits when boxers are smacking each other, and they again do what they need to do. Nothing stands out, nothing excites, but you get a feeling for a smack connecting. So I suppose again, the sound effects will do what they need to do. The music, I find the tune to be rather enjoyable in its own way and very, very fitting for the setting of the game. But bear in mind, of course, that that tune is playing at all times outside of the boxing matches themselves. And depending on your preferences, it may become quite tedious to listen to at one point or another. I said earlier on that this is a boxing management game, and that is exactly what it is. You are managing your boxer or boxers by getting in touch with various other managers to arrange fights and then get them approved, and then get in touch with your scouts and maybe have them watch a match to get some sort of idea on a boxer, or of a boxer, I should say, or send them out to spy on a boxer's training regime thing. But that can be rather dangerous, and if they get caught, they usually get beaten into a pulp and become unavailable for a few weeks, and they have forgotten everything they've seen because they got concussion in the process. So it is a coin flip gamble to send out your scouts. But beyond that, there's no other managing aspects. There's no finances to worry about, there's no medical bills to worry about, there's no nothing. And that may or may not be sufficient for people who could be interested in playing a game of this type. Personally, I played this game not regularly, but semi-regularly many years ago, and I did find the text description of the different fights quite exciting. Actually, to the point where I was sitting and yelling and screaming at the monitor, and get him, that kind of stuff. So, depending on the viewpoint, imagination, or requirements, this game may or may not be exciting to play. It's likely going to be either or. So, on that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.